You know Riz from your time at Rutgers.
And I know you have his resume, but probably, honestly, the best thing he's ever done was he brought the McCourty twins to Rutgers. Coach Darren Rizzi was a part of the recruiting process going to Rutgers. He once came to my high school. Me and my brother smoked him in a game of horse. But one of the most legendary Darren Rizzi special teams meetings, he was our special teams coordinator at Rutgers, was we had lost a game or something happened. The team was messing up. And he started rolling. And when he started rolling, some of the best one-liners that you've ever heard come out of his mouth started just going. And he asked one guy, and I'm sure this phrase has been said and many people have heard it, but this was just one of many. He said to one guy, he said, "You know what excuses are like? Excuses are like buttholes. Everyone's got them." And when you're talking to a bunch of college kids, everyone starts dying laughing. And then he ends it with, "Hey, you know what? Don't piss on me and tell me it's raining." And this was Rizzi in one of like these legendary meetings where he's just going off on guys, and it just stormed, and he's telling all of these different stories with these one-liners. But overall, extremely happy for Coach Rizzi. He had been, I think close to this type of job a bunch of times. When he was in Miami, he fought to try to be the head coach in Miami when they were looking for head coaches. He goes to New Orleans and now gets an opportunity as an interim head coach. He's a guy that, I think you've heard people throughout the years talk about the benefit, whether it's John Harbaugh, whether it's Bill Belichick, of being a special teams coach, having special teams as your background, because you really understand how to relate to all the guys. When you're a special teams coach, you deal with offense and defensive players coming and being on special teams. So I'm so excited for him. He's a Jersey guy. Last year, if you can remember, when my guy was playing in the New York Giants, when he was playing, I can't think of the quarterback's name that was playing from the Giants. Why I'm drawing a blank.
Tommy DeVito. Tommy DeVito.
Yes, DeVito. When DeVito was playing, DeVito went to a rival high school that Rizzi went to, so Rizzi wore the Bergen Catholic T-shirt on game day when they played against the Giants. He's that type of guy. He's a guy's guy for the locker room. He's a guy I think that they'll all love to play for, so extremely excited for Coach Rizzi to get this opportunity.
And we got so caught up in the meaning of Riz, at least I buried the lead. Dennis Allen was fired. That's how this all happened. Dennis Allen, after an 18-25 record as a Saints head coach, was fired. And really, we saw this coming. You lose to the Panthers, you lose to the worst team. And I said this when the Panthers went ahead late. If the Panthers win this game, the Saints just have to fire everybody. Now, you can't fire everybody because somebody has to stick behind and still run the store for the rest of the year. But I guess I'm surprised because Gail Benson hasn't seemed to be impulsive and seems to be more patient than other owners might be. So I thought it was Allen's done at the end of the year. I was surprised that she did it with time left on the season, but it gives Rizzi a chance. Here he is from yesterday, and there's a little Dennis Allen, the former head coach, who was also the coach of the Raiders, and had done a great job as the defensive coordinator under Sean Payton. They shut out Tom Brady at one point on a Sunday night game, and they bedeviled Tom Brady, at least in the regular season, during his time with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But as head coach, it didn't work out. Here's Rizzi from yesterday on the changes that are going to be made or not made as they change coaches midstream.
We've all had a hand, me included, in where we are right now. And we're all going to have a hand in kind of digging us out of this hole that we're in. Everybody and everything is going to get reevaluated and evaluated and reevaluated because right now the product is not acceptable. So everything down from the schedule to how we do things to the active players to the daily schedule, we're going to look at everything. How we practice, all those different things. And so really haven't made any final decisions on all that, but a wise man and the Hall of Fame coach once told me if something's got to change and something's got to change. So we're gonna make some changes. When you lose 7 games in a row, we're obviously not in a place where we can just stay status quo. I don't think this is going to be Darren Rizzi taking over the steering wheel. We're just going to keep the ship moving forward. We got to make some changes along the way. So this is not just a change at the top of the head coach. We got to look at and really evaluate everything that we're doing.
This ultimately is an opportunity for him to audition for the job, on the job, And it's a weird spot to be in because you're loyal to the guy who was the head coach. But now, you know what? I didn't like some of the stuff he did, primarily because it wasn't working. I got to do something different if I'm going to convince Gail Benson and Mickey Loomis to give me the opportunity. And we see how hard it is for special teams coordinators to get hired. It took John Harbaugh a year as defensive backs coach in Philly before he was able to be hired as a head coach. Dave Taub's name comes up, or it used to come up from time to time as a potential head coaching candidate, the longtime special teams coordinator of the Chiefs. It's just difficult for whatever reason. And it makes sense. It all makes sense. The special teams coordinators should be considered. At the end of the day, they just aren't.
And I think it even makes more sense from an interim standpoint of appointing Darren Rizzi, because you look at the Jets and you fire Salah and you appoint Albrecht, and just how much I believe more goes into planning as a defense. Because listen, an NFL game comes down to 65 to 70 plays on offense and defense. You're going to get, anywhere between 15, maybe 20 plays, 25 plays on special teams. So not to say special teams isn't important, like it can change the game, but you're going to play more plays on offense and defense. So when you see those guys sometimes get elevated, the offense or defensive side, it lacks a little bit. It hurts a little bit, where I think for Rizzi, he'll have the opportunity, and special teams, not as big of a role where you have to try now to do both. I think it's easier to do. And this situation reminds me a lot of Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell got his opportunity in Miami. Ultimately, Miami decided to go in a different direction. They didn't hire him as a head coach. But the next time the head coaching cycle came around, Dan Campbell was considered partly because of the job he did in Miami and what guys believed in him, guys talking about him after the season, even though he didn't get the job. So this hopefully can be kind of a springboard for Coach Rizzi if he can go and do a good job. But again, I agree with you. I think the hardest thing in this situation is, how much did you believe in what you were doing as a team? Because I think now you get to kind of reflect. You're in a situation where you might have thought what you guys were doing was going to work, but now at least you can sit back and say, okay, that's not working. Now, what are the solutions, the answers do you have to going forward? I think the thing that'll help Rizzi is he's been at a lot of different places. He was a head coach at the University of Rhode Island. So running the ship, understanding what you want to do, what you don't want to do from a head coaching standpoint won't all be brand new to him. He's had to create the schedule. He's had to make decisions before, so he has that. He's played for different head coaches throughout his career, so he's going to have the ability to take those experiences and match to, okay, we're not doing this well. All right, I've seen so-and-so as a head coach do this. So he's going to be able to mix and match, I think, and have an opportunity. The realistic thing is, what do people want the Saints to do now? What is going to be a positive? Is it a 4-game win streak or something like that makes them feel like, hey, we turn this around? That's ultimately going to be what it's like. I think when we've seen interim head coaches have, so-called success, it's been some kind of win streak that they've been able to go on, even though the season doesn't usually end well. That's been a big part of them having success and maybe getting another opportunity elsewhere or at that team.
Before we turn the page on this segment, because apparently there's breaking news, although I'm making the executive decision again that I want to stay with this because I'm intrigued. There's a soundbite we're going to play that they tell me requires a preemptive sorry London. By the way, here's a belated sorry London for the bad word that Devin said earlier when he was quoting Darren Rizzi. Here is Darren Rizzi as to his message to Saints fans. And again, in advance, sorry, London.
I'm pissed off. The fans should be pissed off. The people in New Orleans, the people of Louisiana, no one should be happy. And I think this city deserves a winner. They know what winning football looks like. And, it's our job to bring that back. And my message is this. Here's what I can't promise a lot. I can promise passion. I can promise fight. And I can tell you that team's going to go out there every Sunday, and that's going to be clear that we're going to have a team that's full of passion and a team that's full of fighters. That I can promise you. Now, the football's got to get better. The execution's got to get better, all right? But we're not going to lack those two things. We're not going to be boring to watch. That I can promise you.
All right, and it's so weird that word that he used twice and you used once and I use all the time in London, because we're on Sky Sports. People say, well, why do you apologize to London? The show's on Sky Sports. That's why. it's like a much worse word there. Now, they use words that are far worse than what we use, but it's just a cultural thing we're not going to get into. Apparently, that's like a really bad word there. So sorry, London. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.